Hey there, I'm Matt, co-founder at 𝐊𝐢𝐝.
And I'm David, co-founder at 𝐊𝐿Ped.
And this is the Cool Kids Table.
This isn't your typical industry podcast. Each month, we sit down with MSPs, vendors, and channel pros to swap stories, share real insights, and have a little fun.
You'll get expert takes along with sports debates and some class clown moments. It's part grade school nostalgia and part real talk about what's going on in business.
No scripts, no sales pitches, just a real lunchroom conversation.
So grab your tray and let's hang out at the Cool Kids Table.
Welcome to the Cool Kids Table podcast to everyone. I'm Matt. I'm one of the founders here at 𝐊𝐿Ped. David, my co-founder, is with me. Today we have Joseph Landis, the co-founder CRO at Nerdio. Can you tell us in a minute just about yourself and about Nerdio?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I'm Joseph Landis. I'm one of the two founders of Nerdio. I'm the chief revenue officer where I look after sales, marketing, and customer success. I worked at Microsoft for 23 years and then I left to be one of the founders of Nerdio with my partner Vadim 𝐊𝐢𝐝𝐿. We are an ISV, we're a software vendor, really that participates in the Microsoft ecosystem. Our DNA, if you will, is around the topic of desktop virtualization. We help organizations of all sizes, the smallest business up to the largest enterprise in the world, stream their desktops from the Microsoft cloud using either Azure Virtual Desktop or Windows 365 and really the other surrounding technologies like Microsoft Intune.
Wow, I feel like I should button up a couple of my buttons here. Joseph, You're the real deal. Nerdio is huge in our space.
We started in the MSP space. We started with this premise that we were going to make Microsoft Azure easier for MSPs. Lots of MSPs wanted to move to the world of Azure, but they just didn't have the technical wherewithal. They didn't really know how to make money in the cloud, moving from the on-prem world. So that's how Vadim and I started, by creating a product, Nerdio Manager, that allowed MSPs to do that. And then, as we started kind of moving along, we had companies, organizations coming to us, much larger, I would say, wanting to use the same technology. So we kind of created a second product, Nerdio Manager for Enterprise. And that's why I think we feel proud that the two-person doctor's office via an MSP uses our product, and some of the largest organizations in the world use our product. So it's pretty cool.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us and entertaining our silliness.
First, let's hear what's in your lunchbox.
Here, here's my cool lunchbox that you all sent me. Let's see what we've got here. We've got crunchy chickpeas. Very exciting.
Nice.
We've got Bamba. We've got puffed peanut and corn snacks Bamba.
Nice.
I think my kids ate that when they were younger. We've got my favorite Kit Kats, little Kit Kats here. And actually even more favorite, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Those are the best.
Yeah.
So thank you for sending this. Very exciting.
I was going to say it was healthy. It started off pretty healthy with the
Very healthy and chocolate.
Joseph, do you have any idea what we're going to do today?
I mean, I heard something about a Jeopardy game. That's all I really know. So I'm game for anything. Just let me know. When I was growing up, I mean, I don't want to say I was the class clown, but I was a big prankster. So that would be the category I would normally pick. But we could go with the overachiever. We'll start from the easy ones. I'm not like the current Jeopardy masters that somehow have flipped it all on its head. I don't know.
You described Nerdio as an outside-in company. Expand on that.
So we thought, when we started the company, that our best ideas should really come from customers and partners. So everything we do at Nerdio is about listening first to customers and partners and then responding to their needs. So we come out with new versions of both of our products every 6 weeks, for example, that have 10 to 15 new features each that are proposed by customers and partners largely. And I think that if you really want the truth on something, you first seek to understand what your customers and partners want to do, and then that should certainly guide you. It doesn't mean you don't have great ideas yourself, you certainly hope to, but the truth is always found at the customer and partner, and that's what we mean by being an outside-in company.
And how do you find that balance behind just building exactly what the customer asks for and understanding what the customer asks for and building something that's even better? And I always think about the Henry Ford quote, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm not even going to try to say it, but it's like, what do your customers ask for? They ask for faster horses, and he went and built a car. So how do you strike that balance behind giving them a faster horse versus putting in the time to develop a car?
There certainly are ideas that come from customers and partners that don't make any sense, right? Or that they might make sense for that one customer, but they're not necessarily something that's going to end up being pervasive across multiple customers. So I think as a software company, you try to have a lot of tentacles out there. You try to have a lot of listening mechanisms out there. We'll run a partner advisory board, a customer advisory board. We'll do surveys. We'll speak to customers. We'll collect all the feedback that they have, and then we'll kind of process it and decide what should we act on. What is the highest propensity to be successful across the majority of our customer base, and that's what we do. But there's definitely ideas both that we come up with and that customers and partners come up with that never see the light of day.
And I'm going way off the reservation with all these follow-ups, but what's the timeline from idea to release?
It's pretty quick. If you look at much larger companies that we compete with, legacy vendors like a Citrix or a VMware, they don't come out with features very quickly. They may have 1 or 2 releases a year. We're doing it every 6 weeks, right? So it's not uncommon for a partner to come to us, suggest something, and it's in the next release or the release after, which is pretty fast, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we even have a separate process where we will run. We have sort of tiger teams that are working to even prioritize releasing features in 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
So, let's go on to the next one.
All right, 200 overachiever for 200.
Perfect. All right, so having spent over 2 decades with Microsoft, what do you have to say to young professionals in regards to career advancement through one versus many companies?
Yeah, I was at Microsoft, like I said, for 23 years, and I didn't do one job for 23 years. I did many different things. In fact, the last 10, 11 years of my career at Microsoft, I spent abroad. I lived in Germany, Russia, the Czech Republic, Brazil, and India. And I think that in any company, it's important to try new things. It's important to be open to doing new things. I got amazing advice when I started at Microsoft from my first mentor, Carl Gullet. One of the reasons I think I had some success at Microsoft, he said to view Microsoft as just the extension of your college career. So you took a bunch of courses in college, you majored in something, and now it's time to take some more courses. And then maybe after a couple of years, try the next thing. After a couple of years, try the next thing. And I think as long as you keep things fresh, you'll be able to learn a lot of new things, gain a bunch of new skills, and ultimately what I think is the most important, really have fun.
As an organization, how is Microsoft in encouraging that advancement and career growth? Do they try to push you to take on a new certification, get training, upskilled, and whatever to expand into a new role? Or is that something
Microsoft, like really the largest software company in the world by many measures, right? So if you think about all the things that Microsoft does, it's not uncommon to see someone who might be working on, Microsoft 365 decide that they're a big gamer and they want to move into Xbox or they want to move into something else. So I think there's a great mechanism at Microsoft to be able to do that. By the same token, I would say that I think we've seen, particularly among people who are early in career, this kind of nervousness or this kind of FOMO or this idea that they're missing out on something by not changing jobs more often. And I've felt, one of our board members, Andy Lees, is a big proponent of this. He was a manager of mine at Microsoft a few times, that you have to sit in a job to see if the decisions that you make, you see what happened to the decisions that you make, right? So you're sitting here at your company, at my company, you make a decision. If someone leaves, they don't get to see the impact of what they did. Not always a positive impact, sometimes a negative impact, but whatever the impact is, you have to kind of sit and marinate in it a little bit and learn. So this idea that, people are changing companies every year and a half to 2 years, I think is not super healthy for folks. Typically people figure that out as they go along, but people who are super early in career, I think, have a hard time with that. They think they're missing out if they don't change, and I think that's not always the case. Okay, let's go 300, overachiever.
You're working your way through New York Times notable books. Tell us one literary fiction that stuck with you and potentially even changed how you view or go through life.
First, I don't know how you found out all this information about me, but good job. I'm working my way through the New York Times notable books, the literary fiction component. I have a life project to read every one of those books from 1947 to the present, and they add 50 books a year. So you're always sort of you got to sort of read the books and then you got to go back. So the book that I would say really changed my life is called A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry. It takes place in India in the 60s and 70s. I lived in India for 3.5 years. So before I moved there, I tried to read a lot about India. I tried to read like sort of all the big fiction books that people were talking about. A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, which is another amazing book. And I think what I really learned from the book, and honestly my experience living in India, is that you can get by with a lot less, that you don't need so much stuff to be happy in life. It doesn't mean you can't have stuff. It doesn't mean you shouldn't prioritize having the things that make you happy. But this idea that we just sort of go through life accumulating things, and most of the things we don't use, I think was a good lesson for me, because the average person that I ran into in India didn't have a lot and was super happy, and I think made me super happy. So I think, it's the book that I have recommended the most to people, A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry. Amazing. It was like the first book I think I ever cried reading.
I think we're both adding it to the reading list.
Awesome. Thank you for that one.
By the way, as like a bonus for anyone listening to this, my brother, Avner Lerlandys, is a fantastic author. His first book is a book called 𝐂𝐨𝐨𝐥, The Lean Years. So by Avner Lerlandys, incredibly funny book. And I think people would enjoy it a lot. It's very cool having a brother who's a great writer. There's always kind of stuff to read and stuff to, catch up on. He wrote his second book called The Delegation, which is a very interesting book as well. I don't want to spoil it by kind of talking about how it lays out, but it's sort of written in 3 different parts. So those are 2 other great ones to get. Let's do Overachiever for 400.
All right. So both 𝐊𝐻𝐿t and Nerdio were born out of back of the napkin moments. One a coffee shop, one a car ride. Early on, you aimed for 15,000 users and landed 6,000. What's another goal you missed that ended up leading you somewhere better?
Yeah, in the early days, you set goals, and when you're starting a company, you just don't know really what's going to happen, right? So the most important thing that I tell my team is, you have to learn from failure. Not even failure. You have to learn from something that just doesn't go right. If something doesn't go right and you just sort of move on without learning, it's not the best. So we had this program that we continue running. It's called Nerdio Training Camps. A lot of software companies in the MSP space, I think they love the idea of trying to get a roadshow together, right? And how do you sort of get people to come to like a steakhouse and have lunch with you or whatever? We sort of took it in a different direction. We said, hey, we're just going to basically invite MSPs to come to some hotel. It could be an airport hotel, whatever, nothing fancy, with their laptops. And we're going to teach them how to use Nerdio for 2 days. And the first few times we did it, honestly, it wasn't amazing. It was okay, but things didn't work and it wasn't that great. But now, we run about 35 or 40 of them a year. We get 50 to 60 MSPs showing up for each one. And people walk away, both existing MSPs and prospects, walking away feeling that we really help them be successful with the hands-on idea. And it's, quite technical, I would say. So I think, the first few, I would say we missed a little bit. They just weren't amazing, but we got better and better and better, and we learned. And I always joke we should give out an award at our monthly all hands for, somebody who took a risk and it failed miserably, right? I mean, that's where the best learning comes from.
Oh, I love that.
That's it for the Cool Kids Table today.
We basically secured the keys to all the rooms. Went from room to room. We took all the chalk out. I saw the water running down the glacier, so I took an empty water bottle and I kind of caught the water and drank it. Hopefully no one was like doing anything at the top that they shouldn't have been doing.
One more question, and then we'll go to our...
What about all the other ones?
We're going to bring you back for the Champion Series.